Hi, everybody. What's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. Welcome to Sit Down. Bill Whitaker and Jon Wertheim here with us. The season premiere of 60 Minutes on Sunday. 53rd season, guys. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'm good. How are you, John?
Hanging in there. Have we figured out how to answer that question yet?
Not really.
At this point, just getting by is the standard answer, I feel like.
I think so. Hanging in there is probably the best answer.
So, guys, it's a brand new season of 60 Minutes, and both of you have been a part of the legacy for several years now. So, Bill, why don't we start with you? What do you remember about when you first joined the 60 Minutes fold here?
Fear. No, it's like I had been working with the evening news for more than 30 years and sort of thought I had the hang of everything. And you move to 60 Minutes, and it's the big leagues. Everything is pumped up. Everything's more important, more significant. It's the big leagues, but it's challenging and it's fun, and it has an impact that no other news broadcast has. It's sort of, it couldn't ask for better if you're going to be a broadcast journalist.
Jon, what do you remember about your first days doing 60 Minutes?
I like Bill's analogy. It really does feel like a call up to the big leagues. And sometimes you get to these exalted places, and sometimes they don't quite measure up and they don't meet your expectation. And 60 Minutes has been the opposite. It is everything you would expect it to be. It's everything you would want in a news outlet. It's really an honor to be part of this tradition. And it's colleagues like Bill. It's the past, but it's also the present. And it's very much at odds with the times. Facts matter, reporting matters, truth matters. 12 minutes is an eternity in today's media landscape, but it's really fulfilled every expectation you could possibly have.
That's really great to hear. And Jon, you make a great point. I mean, storytelling is incredibly important right now, especially given everything going on in the world. And Bill, for you, less than 50 days until the election, you go to Pennsylvania and there's a story about their new voter mail-in system. What did you learn with that story, and what was it like reporting on it?
It was, well, when you go into Philadelphia, as we say in the piece, it's the cradle of American democracy. It was the very first state to have vote by mail. And right now, they're in the middle of a very contentious battle over mail-in ballots. They're fighting in the legislature. They're fighting in the courts. You have President Trump, who's campaigning in the state. He's been there 4 or 5 times this summer. And every time he's there, he says mail-in ballots are not safe, and it's a way for the Democrats to steal the election. So that has injected a lot of confusion into the process. And so we found a lot of people who are scratching their heads. Is this safe? Is it going to work? There are questions about the mail service. So without the mail service, can I put my ballot in a drop box? And all of these questions are still up in the air, and election day is just 6 weeks away.
It's really crazy to think that there's so many questions still, that people are going to tune in 60 Minutes to find out information. What do you think will surprise some people? Because a lot of people know about the doubt. A lot of people are nervous about their mail-in ballot. What do you think will surprise them when they watch your piece?
Well, I think the thing we found most surprising is that with legislators, both Democrats and Republicans, there's little debate over the safety of mail-in ballots. Democrats and Republicans will tell you in Pennsylvania, it's actually a very safe process. They had absentee voting for many, many years, and what they've done now is just extend that to everybody. Anybody can request a ballot and send it in. So they don't see that it's a big, contentious issue, but yet it is. And so they're trying to figure out how to make it work in this wild and crazy election year.
Wild and crazy election year, just in general, a wild and crazy year. And Jon, let's bring you in here because there is college football that is still being played right now. And you talked to Ed Orgeron, and he just won a national championship with LSU. He's one of the biggest personalities in college football, but his team is also struggling with COVID. So what was it like talking to him and doing this piece for Sunday?
I hope I'm not giving away industrial secrets, but I sort of envision this as a fun sports feature. And here's this colorful, charismatic coach, and he's a Cajun. He's in Louisiana. They won the national title, and then COVID hits, and this becomes a much different story. And we were inside the football facility at a time where it was uncertain whether there would be college football. I mean, even as we talk today, this remains very much a controversial and, probably not surprisingly, a politicized issue. And it strikes me this was really a beauty of 60 Minutes. I mean, this is really sort of one of the virtues of the show, that you can pitch a story thinking it's going to be X and it turns into Y. And this news story broke out and made Ed Orgeron especially relevant. And we were still able to put together 12 minutes of TV. So, he's front and center in this debate over whether there should be football. He very firmly believes there should be football. And we sort of, went looking for a feature and a news story broke out. But one of the beauties of 60 Minutes is that pivot is something that we're able to execute.
The college football story is really fascinating on a number of different levels. John, for you, you've covered sports for such a long time. When you take a step back, what's it like to see a global pandemic and then a sport that has battled with amateurism and many different issues now facing a public health crisis on top of everything else?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think something 60 Minutes allows us to do is really get into the context. And nuance is not a dirty word. And you're right that this fits into a larger tableau and a larger discussion about amateurism, about the lack of a union, about paying college athletes, revenue sports. I mean, the COVID is really, it's sort of this prism through which we can view college sports. And it's something we talk about with Ed Orgeron. Look, these athletes are not being paid. They're playing a sport where you can't socially distance. They don't have a union. At the same time, this is a huge opportunity for a lot of these guys. 14 LSU players were drafted in the last NFL draft. You might not be able to do that if there isn't a football season. So the context here, I think, is really important. College football had this sort of existential crisis even before COVID, and I think it's only been amplified these last few months.
We're really just rethinking a lot of different elements of our society, and Bill, voting falls firmly into that category. For the people in Philadelphia, is it kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation? Because even if they get it right, people are going to be complaining about it. So how does this kind of shape the conversation of the future of mail-in ballot voting and just voting in general in such a contentious election?
Well, just overall in the country, we are expecting that more people will vote by mail in just about every state than ever before. And I don't think we're going to undo this. I don't think that this is going to be a one-off. I think people will see that this sort of makes it's certainly easier. You're able to vote in the privacy of your home with no external stresses, and then walk and put your ballot in a box either at City Hall or at the election center. I don't think we're going to undo that. So this is a real test for how we're going to be voting in the future. What I see from people is most people like it. They want to be able to do it, but they also want to be confident that it's secure. And right now, that's the question. Is it secure?
One of the beautiful things about 60 Minutes is that it gives voice to news stories, sports stories, really the most fascinating stories in the world. So Bill, for you, what does it mean to be a storyteller in a time, like John was saying, where facts are questioned and things aren't taken legitimately all the time? What does it mean to have the power to speak truth?
I think our job is to just continue doing what we have been doing, which is to tell the truth and tell it in the best way we possibly can. As John was saying, we have the luxury of having this platform, 12 minutes and 15 seconds, John. 12 minutes and 15 seconds to tell stories that are important and that mean things to people. And I'm doing this story about voting, but it's true that in order for people to be responsible citizens in this democracy, in our democracy, they need to have information. They need to have truth, real information, in order to make the decisions about how we are going to govern ourselves. And so I think that's part of what we're here to do, is to provide people with that information so they can make informed decisions when they go to that ballot box.
John, for you, I'd love to talk about just the evolution of the sports feature, because you've obviously done it in print and online, and it's been thousands of words. It's short form in terms of articles now, short form video. You get over 12 minutes to tell the story of Ed Orgeron. How does that time frame lend itself to learning more about this guy and just some of the most fascinating athletes and coaches out there in sports?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to do long form pieces and sort of avoid this trend of boiling everything down. I mean, to me, the biggest difference at some level, it's very similar to writing, and you report and you go in with, open eyes and open ears, and you meet people and you ask questions and you try and distill what's important. In some ways, it's very similar, writing and putting together a TV piece. I mean, to me, the biggest difference is collaboration and working with producers and working with editors and having your material screened and improved. It's a lot of the same fundamental skills, but a very different process. But I think, I think the sports, I like what Bill hit on too, with the variety of the pieces we do, I think is really essential to 60 Minutes. And I think the mix is really the special sauce. And our executive producer, Bill Owens, has a real gift for that. It can't all be stories about the future of democracy and the environment, and those are important, and we do those well. But I think sort of the mix of 60. I'm thinking about even Bill last year did stories on everything from rodeo to submarine to stories with more heft, and I think that's something that and sports obviously figures into that mix as well. But I think that's one of the real sort of virtues of the show.
And John, for you, what does it mean to be able to sit down with some of the most powerful people in sports, some of the most popular people, and press them too? Because, whether it's college football or the NFL, some of these people are super powerful. They don't always get the tough questions. They don't always answer the tough questions. What does it mean to you to have that opportunity to really try and push these people to get that truth?
It's a great question. I think a lot of that has to do with the brand. When you sit down with 60 Minutes, there is a certain expectation, and the subject knows that this is not going to be a puff piece, and they're going to have some responses that are going to be challenged. And I think that goes a long way towards setting up the tone. So it's, holding people accountable is one of the reasons a lot of us, I think, got into this game. But I think going in there as 60 Minutes is really important before you even ask your first question.
Bill, John, it's been great hanging out. Thanks so much. You're two of the best at what you do, and we'll be watching on Sunday, all right?
All right. Good talking to you.
Thanks, EJ.